Credit cards are one of the highest forms of debt you can take on, ranging anywhere from 20 to 35%. That means if you're carrying a balance, you're paying way more than you initially spent.
But in this video, we're going to show you how to avoid that.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting. You'll spend it and be broke again.
So as always, we want to recommend to use credit cards wisely and only spend money on credit cards you actually have in the bank so you can pay them off at the end of every month and you don't pay interest. However, we know life happens and you say you have a big purchase you have to make or you have a lot of debts that have been piling up and you don't want to pay 20, 30, 40% in interest rates. So zero interest rate credit cards are actually a really good option.
Now, just a little side note, you can't oftentimes transfer debt within the same institution, like one Amex card to another Amex. They don't really like that. And another thing to note that I see a lot of people not mentioning is there are oftentimes transfer fees.
Almost always.
Yeah. Oftentimes 3 to 5%. For a couple of the cards we'll mention at the end of this video that have extra long zero interest promotional periods, they're more at the 5% transfer. Most of these other cards are about 3%.
Right. Because the bank wants to get their portion. Yeah. If they're giving you 2 years almost to no interest, they're not getting anything. Yeah. So then they want to get it another way, and that's that 5% transfer in fee.
Yeah. And we'll explain it in this video, and we'll highlight which ones are which. But there are some credit cards where you'll see in big bold letters the zero interest APR, but some are only for purchases or only for balance transfers. Most of the cards we discuss in this video are both, but we will kind of separate those and tell you which ones are which. It's just something to keep an eye out for.
So let's jump into the first one. So for the first one, we actually have two. They're with the same institution, and they're very, very similar cards, so we just combine them together. So it's the Chase Freedom Unlimited and the Chase Freedom Flex card.
Yeah, so like Ryan was saying, these cards are very similar. It really comes down to what areas you think you'll be able to get the most cash back.
The good thing about these cards is they have no annual fee.
Yeah, and both have a $200 bonus. So if you spend $500 on the first 3 months, you'll get that $200 cashback bonus, which it's not too hard to spend $500 nowadays, especially over 3 months. They also have a 5% cashback offer for the first year on gas stations and grocery stores, unfortunately excluding Target and Walmart, and it's only up to $12 grand a year. But that's still a nice little intro.
And of course, 0% interest APR for 15 months on purchases and balance transfers.
And as for the rewards, they both offer 5% back on travel through Chase, 3% back on dining, 3% back on drugstore purchases. And then the difference here is the Flex offers 5% on up to $1,500 in purchases in bonus categories that rotate every quarter, such as gas, groceries, some online stores like Amazon. Now, you will have to go in and activate that, so that's just something to keep in mind. And with this card, you get 1% back on all your other purchases.
While the Unlimited card offers 1.5% back on all other purchases, but no 5% category bonuses.
So yeah, you'll just kind of have to look at, the categories. If they fit and you think you'll benefit from those rotating categories with 5% back, the Flex is probably the better option. But if you're like, none of these categories really meet my criteria, that extra 0.5% back actually does add up over time. So maybe the Unlimited is your route that you should go.
And finally, as far as other benefits and different coverages they offer, they're pretty much the same card. The only exception is the Flex card comes with cell phone protection. So if you would use that, you can lean more towards that if all the other benefits line up as well, but no biggie. If not, it's not that crazy.
Yeah, guys, so you can't really go wrong with either card. Yeah. Like we said, it's just a matter of choosing that cashback option best for you. But those are two great cards right there, part of the Chase trifecta that you'll hear people talk about. These are just a great everyday card too, excluding the intro offers that we're talking about with the zero interest. All right, so the next card is seemingly a bit of a fan favorite. It was one of the first shorts that ever popped off, was the Amex Blue Cash Everyday card. Now, just like the previous cards we talked about, this has no annual fee, which is awesome.
There's also a $200 bonus after you spend $2,000 in the first 6 months. Again, $2,000 sounds crazy, but I believe the average family of 4 spends about $1,000 a month in groceries, which is kind of insane, but at the same time makes sense. So that's easily done by most people. Yeah. Then you also get the 0% interest APR on purchases and transfers for the first 15 months.
Yeah, guys, and on top of that, the cashback rewards, you get 3% back on groceries up to $6,000 in purchases per year. Then it turns down to 1%. Same for online retail as well as gas, and then 1% on all other purchases.
You also get an $84 credit for Disney Plus bundle. Pretty cool if you're a Disney fan.
Yeah. You get the Hulu, the ESPN Plus, all that. And we won't go too much into the detail of this other card, but for similar intro bonuses, but a higher cashback rewards, there's the Amex Blue Cash Preferred card. It does come with a $95 annual fee, but a lot of those 3% cashbacks turn into 6% cashbacks with this card. Now, it does only offer the zero interest APR for 12 months instead of 15, so that is also another difference that you should note.
So with that card, you'll really want to look at your priorities. Are you trying to get out of debt? Do you need a little bit of extra time, that 3 extra months?
Yeah.
Is that what you're really looking for? Or do you only have some debt, you're just trying to pay it down, you know that zero interest, you'll get it done in 6 months, and you really want all these bonuses.
Yeah.
Then you want to pick between the two of those, and is that $95 fee worth it for you?
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
And now card number 3.5, because don't forget we started with 2 at once, is the Capital One Quicksilver card. With this card, like we always like to mention, there's no annual fee. And this card starts with a 0% interest APR for 15 months on purchases and transfers.
And as far as cashback bonuses, you earn $200 cash back once you spend $500 in purchases within the first 3 months. And then on top of that, your normal cashback, you get 5% back on cars and hotels booked through Capital One, then 1.5% cash back on all other purchases. Yeah, the Capital One Quicksilver is a pretty straightforward card, pretty standard that a lot of people like, and it does have that nice, like we're talking about in this video, 0 interest APR for 15 months. Another card that a lot of people have heard about is the Citi Double Cash Rewards card. You may have seen this in one of our previous credit card videos. It is something that's really nice, a pretty straightforward card. Yeah. You know, you get 2% back on all purchases, 1% when you buy it, and 1% when you pay that off. So, you know, standard bonus, pretty flat right there.
But it's kind of nice. You don't have to keep up with all these categories. You don't have to keep up with which quarter is this? Where should I be
you don't
going
got to
with
activate
this
anything.
Right. You don't have to remember stuff. You just get your bonus and move on. With this card, there is no annual fee, and there's a $200 bonus when you spend $1,500 in the first 6 months.
Now, this card only offers the 0 interest APR for 18 months on only balance transfers. So, like how we were telling you at the very beginning that some of these cards only offer one or the other, this one is only on balance transfers. So, it's good if you want to get out of some debt that you already have. You know, 18 months is a nice little period there, you know. A year and a half to pay off debt is definitely beneficial. Now, I already mentioned the standard 2% cash back, but there's a limited time offer to the end of this year, so December 31st of 2024. You'll get 5% back on the hotel and car rentals through Citi.
Now, don't forget, when you transfer that balance into the Citi now and use it on this card, you're going to have to pay that 3% balance transfer fee. So when you're doing your calculation of now how much am I going to pay per month, remember your balance plus that 3% fee, and that's your new balance you're going to have to pay. And you're going to break that up by 18 months and go, is this feasible? Can I pay whatever it is, $700, $800 a month to get this card down so I have no interest paid by the end of that period?
Yeah.
If yes, it might be a great option. If no, you might want to rethink, maybe look for a longer period on a different card, which we have some options coming up, or maybe look at some other options.
Yeah, because like Ryan was just saying, you know, after that 18 months is up, interest starts on that balance you have. It's not like, oh, that's old, you know, it's only for new stuff. No, as soon as that period is up, you're getting charged that interest. The bank wants their money
20,
again.
25, 30%, whatever it is at the time.
Now, the cards we just mentioned are some of our favorites, but a couple others that you'll hear a lot of people talk about with these 0 interest APR offers are cards like the Bank of America Unlimited Cash Card, as well as the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card.
As you guys know, if you've watched our channel before, we're not great fans of Wells Fargo or Bank of America. There's just a lot of scandals and yada yada. So we don't always like to talk about them, but they are options, and we want everybody to know what options they have.
And with credit cards, it's typically a little safer than opening an account with them in another way, but you guys can look into those cards if you're interested. The ones we talked about, we definitely do like and are big fans of.
The next is the Wells Fargo Reflect card. So with this card, you're going to have no annual fee, and you're going to have 0% interest APR for 21 months on purchases and transfers in the first 120 days. That first 120 days is just when you have to transfer that balance from another card or bank into Wells Fargo, but the rest of the purchases and the interest APR last that whole 21 months. There's not much else with this card. There's no bonuses. There's no categories to check. There's nothing like that. It's just a plain card for balance transfers. So they're giving you a longer period of time to go without interest. They're going to want their piece of the pie. Yeah. So their fee to transfer in is higher. So this is a 5% balance transfer card, which can hurt. If you're transferring in $20,000, 5% is a chunk of change.
So the last two cards we wanted to mention in this video also offer that 21-month 0 interest APR period for balance transfers, and that's the Citi Diamond Preferred and Citi Simplicity cards.
We did a little sandwich there. We did 2 cards on top, all the singles in the middle, then 2 cards on the bottom.
So both of these cards have no annual fee and offer 0 interest APR for 12 months on purchases, then the 21 months on balance transfers. Like the previous card, there's not much else to it. They don't really offer rewards or anything like that. And there are some slight differences, obviously, but you can look into that if it really interests you. And same as the previous one, these 21-month periods are going to require that 5% transfer fee. So that's just something you do need to factor in when you're calculating, you know, can this work for me?
So yeah, guys, these can be a great tool to help you get out of debt. Or if you, like we said in the beginning, have that big purchase that came out of nowhere and you just want to make sure you don't have to pay interest on it, but you know you can pay it off in 3 to 6 months. You know for a fact. It can be a great asset or a great tool. However, a lot of people can just kick the can down the road, get these cards, do the 0% interest, build it up, add more debt to it, and then they just have more debt on top of what they already had. And now the interest rate kicks in after that period of time of 12, 15, 18, 21 months, depending on the card you choose. And now they have debt on debt on debt, and now they just can't get out. Because once you get that far, you can probably open another card and try it all over again, but it's getting harder and harder to dig yourself out of that hole.
Yeah, you could, make this almost inevitable and just keep on accruing this debt with 0 interest. But another thing to keep in mind, guys, is credit bureaus are still going to be looking at your credit utilization. So if you're carrying those massive balances and you're not making any minimum payments and everything, your score is still trickling down at this point. Now, once you pay it all back, it will make a recovery to a certain extent.
If you can pay it all back.
Yeah. But you definitely want to at least be making those minimum payments, trying to keep that utilization down as much as possible. But these are a lot of the cards that a lot of people are using for those purposes. Now, the first few that we mentioned with the 15 or 18-month intro periods, they are good cards to kind of just have regardless. The last few cards that we mentioned there with those 21-month periods are really specifically for people trying to get out of debt. So if you're in that position, those cards may be ones you want to look into. But like we were saying, there's really nothing else to them. You're not going to get cashback rewards with those cards.
And just like we've said a bunch of times, take your balance, add that fee you're transferring in, how much it is, combine them, divide it amongst that period. Can you make those payments, those new payments, and can you do it before that period of time's over? If so, this can be a great tool and great asset for you.
Yeah, guys, so we appreciate you tuning in. If you want us to go into some more credit cards with, special offers or like, oh, this is my situation, we'd be more than happy to look into that and maybe make a video on it if we think a lot of people would be interested in it. So leave those thoughts and comments down below. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
See you guys in the next one.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting. You'll spend it and be broke again.